You want me to catch the fucking moon?
Oh, fucking.
Welcome back to A Thousand Eyes and One podcast. We are your hosts, Tanya and Nikki. Hello.
Hi, sorry, I was just making sure my YouTube is muted. I'm here. Yeah, hi. We're so excited to be here. I think I'm more excited about this book than we were the fifth season. Like we were excited about the fifth season, but like really coming back into it with the Obelisk Gate, now that the world building the stage has been set. Oh,
So, yes, welcome
yeah.
back to our book club, Wine on an Empty Stomach. Follow us on all our socials. Thousand Eyes One on Twitter, A Thousand Eyes and One on Facebook and Instagram, and for all book club info, Wine on an Empty Stomach on Instagram. We are so excited to be back with Broken Earth. Um, as we said last time, this series was like what sparked our entire book club. Hey, AK. Yes, it is
Hey.
Broken Earth Day. And today we're talking about catching the fucking moon.
Oh, and everything in between.
Let's go to the beginning. That line always gives me chills. But
Yeah.
so, fifth season, we leave off with tell me, have you heard of something called the moon? And that was when we realized that this world has no moon. Father Earth's lost child.
Mm-hmm. Is the moon. Yeah, I guess where we come, well, where do we even start? Like where we left off was at Esun is at Kastrima Under, where she's discovered that Alabaster is there. He's slowly being turned into stone, and he's asked her about a moon, which she's never heard of before.
Right.
Um,
It seems like no one's really heard of this thing called a moon.
mhm.
So now we
So cool.
know. So what we've learned now, obviously we knew Nasun was alive. They're headed to a place that her father calls the moon, but it's actually
Hmm.
Found Moon, which is
Found the moon.
interesting name for this place, Found
Yes.
Moon. This place filled with contaminated guardians. Um, Esun is still in Kastrima Under, trying to
Yep.
figure
Settling
out
in
settling in while in the
reluctantly.
back of her mind telling herself not to settle in because she still needs to find Nasun. And we've now learned that Ragas have somehow destroyed or gotten rid of the moon.
Hmm.
Well, they knocked it out of orbit.
They knocked it out of orbit, and this is essentially why the Earth hates the evil Earth, hates them, and this is why they're being punished with essentially like subservient.
The obelisk stuff in this book, we learn so much more, and we still know so little about what these obelisks are and how they work. But now we know, well, one, we've realized that connecting to the obelisk is turning them into stone. We also
Hmm.
learn that stone eaters used to be people.
Used to be people so long ago that like thousands and tens of thousands of years. They've been around since before the modern ages of Stanzad, which everybody uses kind of like the pinnacle of civilization, getting it right in figuring out how to survive seasons. But Stone Eaters existed long, long before that, and we also learned that there's a war going on. There's a
An
war outside
ancient
that
war.
no one
There's
escapes from.
it's just so much. So, okay. Hi Micah. Thanks for joining. Um, do you want to talk about Alabaster's time with the Stone Eaters first?
Oh, I always forget about that because they touch on it just like in that and just in that exchange, and then I always like it runs into the other book for me, so I get confused. Um,
Yeah, so he
yeah,
ends up on the other side of the world where nobody travels.
yeah. Essentially, when the Guardians come to Mayav to find them, Antimony's like, no, this one belongs to me, and she basically takes him and drags him through the earth, like we see in Esun. She's like, oh my god, where did he go? She's watching him struggle to stay above, but Alabaster tells us that basically she took him through the earth to the opposite side where there is a dead sieve that like the ruins of a dead civ that
It's all stone
yes,
eaters.
she lives in.
There are
All
no
stone
people
eaters.
there.
No people. And so he has to basically deal with living there on his being the only person there, learning that language of the stone eaters, to not go crazy. And that's where he learns about what's going on.
His I really can't wait to see this like all visualized on TV because I really want to see this place where the stone eaters are and see all the
Hmm.
technology mentioned.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, now we know where Alabaster's been for like 10
10
years.
years. Yeah.
No wonder
10
he's
years.
insane.
It's yeah. He was always, I mean, he always had too much power and not enough, like, you know, maybe not the language to express the things that he knew,
Hmm.
and to be able to teach them, which Esun talks about a lot. You know, she's like, he doesn't know how to communicate. He doesn't know how to teach me how to teach these things. Like, how is she supposed to catch the moon? And he's trying to describe, how magic works. So this is the first time that we're actually hearing, no, there's magic in this world too. It's like there's a
Right.
Rajni,
They
but
don't
then
even
there's like
have the word
magic.
magic.
Yeah,
That's her
so
first time
crazy.
even hearing this word.
Hmm.
Um, what I also loved that I missed the first time around, which is why I love rereads so much, is in addition to finding out how powerful of an origin
Excuse me.
Nasun is because she finds the magic without anybody telling her to, and also learns how to use it, and she uses the obelisk regularly and is
Yeah.
just, like it's nothing. We find out that Uche has been using obelisks. This
Hmm.
little toddler there's this moment where Nasun is remembering him jumping in the air and claiming that he's falling, but he's falling up. And she has this
Hmm.
moment of realization that he was falling up because he's connected to an obelisk before.
Hmm.
And it made me so sad because I'm like, Uche was so
So
powerful
strong, so
just as
powerful.
as a little toddler, so powerful.
Hmm.
It does, who knows what he could have become. He may have been even more powerful than Corundum, who was an
Hmm.
incredibly powerful baby.
Yeah, and it shows a lot also how strong Esten is, because she is having a baby with a still, like having
Right.
these powerful orogenic babies with a still.
And
Yeah,
training them. She also trained them.
yeah. Whew. So good.
All right, we should do this in chunks. Do you want to
Na,
start
na,
with
na,
the
na.
Nasun chunk or do you want to start with Kastrima chunk
Let's start with Kastrima, because I think that's where that's essentially
where we left off?
where we left off. So Kastrima is run by Yika. She's the leadership, and she's basically been trying to figure. She's been one calling origins to her to create a civilization where they can all live together safely, but also trying to manage this Khan, who is, they haven't necessarily made peace with the fact that an origin is in charge, but they recognize that their survival does non-existent without her. So
Right.
they're tolerating her because she's been able to keep a lid on the panic. Um, and we
And
meet.
it's really
Go
hard, and
ahead.
it's hard. I was going to say it's really hard for Yika because the people that were originally from Kastrima, original Kastrima that she knows, are people who all knew what she was and actually
Mhm.
tried to protect her and
Yeah,
get her trained without guardians finding out. And so she has so
so
much hope
interesting.
that that it could be possible, but not everybody there is from Kastrima. It's
Yeah,
like you said, they recognize that their survival is going to depend on there being origins living there. But
yeah. Well, that and the
yeah,
fact that like they're just taking people who discover them in and saying, "Are you going to live here? Can you get along with them? Yes, cool. You can stay. No, we're going to take you out
and
back.
kill you.
Yeah, we'll dump
Yikes.
you in the gully. Yeah. Oh, that's a good connection, Bronca and Yika.
Oh, yeah. Branca from the city we became,
Yeah.
for anybody who doesn't know.
Ooh, there's a sentence that I highlighted in this book, and I was like, I wonder when this came before, because she talks about the city that we used to be when she's talking about the dead Civ, and I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, it's like a little Easter.
Right. Like the city we became. Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So So, because basically, Yuka's trying to manage the reins of Kastrima, and she recognizes because not Esun is so powerful that she needs her to be involved and invest in the community.
Hmm.
And so, like, right off the bat, she's like, "Oh, I want to kind of just do things my own way," and I've got like, I've been alone on the road, and Yuka's like, "It's my way, or you can be out," and we know that we're gonna have to keep you here. Like Alabaster's
So
there, and Yuka's
one of the
just.
things, sorry, uh,
Yeah, you're good.
you just reminded me because people who find it and don't want to stay basically have to get killed. But she knows she can't kill Esunas and too powerful, and they also
Mhm.
can't kill Alabaster because what Alabaster
Alabaster.
did, he shows up with his Stone Eater in the middle of the floor inside Castrima Under, and when they threatened him, he just shut everything off for a full minute. And for
Mhm.
everybody there, is a whole minute where there's no water and no air. They couldn't breathe, and he scared the shit out of them. And then they're
Ooh,
like, all right, okay, fine, we'll leave this one alone, because
I
they
love
felt
that
like,
about him.
yeah, he just had no time for the bullshit. He was just like, all right, fine, shut everything off, and showed how
And he
powerful he
reminds
was.
them, and he reminds them of that later, right? Where after he's like telling Esun about like the war between the factions, and Yika comes in and he's like, listen, if I thought that anybody here besides her could control this place and keep it running the way that it's supposed to, even though you're not using it to its potential, he was like, I would have been out a long time ago. And they were
Right.
like, oh, what? Yeah, I love Alabaster in this.
I
I
do
mean, I liked
too.
Alabaster a lot, but I really love him in this book.
He's just so ornery. And now it's like he's dying, and he's in
Yeah.
pain, and he just spent 10 years living with just Stone Eaters. So like,
Mhm.
I mean, she keeps saying like he was never crazy, but he is a little bit crazy.
A little crazy. I
He's
mean,
a
and
little
he was put like he
Anybody
was
would
pushed
be.
to it. I mean, I think the other thing that happens is that we confirm that it was indeed him who caused the rifting. He's the one who set off the season. He's the
Hmm.
one who's responsible for it. And when she asks why later in the book, like his motivation is the same reason as evil as Father Earth's motivation. Like vengeance. Like you killed my family. You destroyed my happy life. And so fuck you and your system. I'm coming for it and I'm going to tear it apart to build a new and better world.
And it's like, to know that Eumenes has stood for so long and the Fulcrum has stood for so long, and now that that's all gone,
Mhm.
it's so hard to imagine what this world is going to look like now.
Mhm.
Should she
Yeah.
be successful and end the season? This is all
Yeah.
assuming that she actually does that.
Exactly. Right. So that's
And
and
he
that's
he also
that's the goal.
believed that she would do that too. That she, well,
Yeah.
Esun will bring the moon back. I need somebody to believe in me like Alabaster
Well,
believes in Esun.
I feel like your husband believes in you like that. He wants you to do the thing. Yeah. I love
But
it.
like, yeah, Alabaster during this time, and with Antimony, and oh my god, and Hoa, we have to talk about Hoa. Now
Oh,
she knows that Hoa is in fact a Stone Eater, not a little strange
not all
child.
human.
Um, oh my god, I'm like jumping around so much because it's
I
just,
know. Well, I would
as
just,
we
since we're talking
it's,
about Hoa, I would just say Hoa's interlude, his first interlude, is maybe one of my favorite parts of the book.
I
And
love
if I was more
Hoa.
organized, we'd read it.
Hoa is like, he's also quietly terrifying.
hmm He's
You
like
know,
basically talking about like he disappears for a while after they get there,
uh-huh.
and we have no idea where Hoa is. We think that maybe he's just skulking about, but it turns out he's been destroying stone eaters that are like converging on Kastrima because they're attracted to all the orogenic power. Um,
And I
whew,
hadn't noticed that we haven't heard word of Yika Stone Eater, or any of the
Reveal.
other ones that we had
Mhm.
met. They're just kind of gone, and I didn't think
Yeah.
about it until they
Until that
bring it back,
interlude,
until
right?
they bring it up, and then I'm like, oh shit, yeah, we haven't seen them, and
She's like,
Hoa's been
he's talking
destroying
about,
them.
he's been destroying them because he keeps talking about that they're stone eaters that are lurking, and antimony is there, and she's as old as he is, as powerful, but he's the one they should be afraid of.
He's a
And
legend.
that, ooh, that's one of my favorite lines.
He's a legend.
I
And
fucking love
we
Helen.
don't know how long he was in
Mhm.
that obelisk. I
No.
don't think he knows how long, because he can't tell hours from days once he's back in his
Yeah.
regular Stone Eater body. Like,
Hmm.
he's been alive for so long that time is nothing to him. We have a comment from Micah. Hoa's been playing shadow games the whole time. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. He's been fighting a war that we didn't even know was going on because we've been so
Hmm.
focused on the survival of Castrima and the politics of Castrima that we just, I wondered where Hoa was, but,
Yeah,
that's
I
just
thought he
not
was
what
just
I
giving
thought
her
was
space.
happening. Right.
Yeah.
And he
And I
mentions that,
forgot too. I forgot it both. Like I obviously I didn't know on my first read, but on this read I forgot that he was out there
yeah,
being
so
an
did I.
assassin.
Yeah. He mentions that the Stone Eaters he destroyed, that they're not killed, they're destroyed. And it might take them like
Mhm.
10,000 years to be put back together,
He's like 10,000, 10,000,000, before
whatever.
they could
Which is,
reconstitute themselves.
I'm like, oh my God, Hoa. Um,
Such a savage.
and when we find out, since we're talking about Hoa, we find out that Hoa confronts the Stone Eater that she calls the gray one or something like that.
Hmm.
That I believe is the same one that has been talking to Nasun.
Steel.
Nasun calls him
Yeah.
Steel.
So
He
scary.
shows up with Hoa's bloody arm. That was a gruesome scene. The idea
Right?
of
And
his
it,
body parts just dragging across the floor on their own. His
oh my
jaw was
God.
ripped off.
And it's so unexpected because you've got it in your mind now that Ho is a badass, and
Hmm.
here comes this other Stone Eater out of nowhere. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, this one belongs to yours." And she goes back to her apartment,
She
and he's like
recognized the
literally in
sleeve
pieces.
first. She
Because it's the
recognized the
jacket that she bought
sleeve.
him.
And I thought Hoa was dead.
I did too.
And her AK just said the same thing at the same time. I was scared Hoa wouldn't make it out of that. I was worried too. Um, Micah says
Yeah,
Steele is fascinating. I want to talk about him, but lips are sealed. Yeah,
yeah.
we're. Well, I mean, we're gonna do the third book.
We're gonna do the
Um,
third book, so we'll
what was
talk
the
about
date we
him
picked? Was that
next
May
time.
15th?
My phone is charging. I forgot, but
Okay, I'll
it's
tell
I
you
think
right
it's May
now.
15th.
I think it was May 15th. We are gonna do the third book. We're absolutely gonna finish the trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the third book is called The Stone Sky, and we'll cover that May 15th at 3 p.m. Eastern. Um, so that's The Stone Sky. We're gonna talk about Steel for sure.
Yeah, we'll come
We'll
back
get
to
there.
him.
We'll get there,
So there's
Micah.
so, there, so there's that, and but in the midst of these things happening, like Kastrima figures out that, well, I don't know. Should we talk about Esun learning
Well, real
finer
quick.
control?
Real quick, we learned that Hoa is the same Stone Eater that was trapped in the obelisk over Alia. That she
Hmm.
asked, "How are you okay?"
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that was like all it took was she said, "Are you okay?" And he just loved her and was like, "Yep, this is the one." And all the shit in
yeah.
Alia happened. Go back to the last episode for that. Um, So now we know for sure it's confirmed that that is Hoa. He was the one in that
Mhm.
obelisk. He pissed off the wrong Raga as he said it, which I'd like to get to the bottom of that. But yeah, so anyway, Asun's control, um, she almost goes on a killing spree.
Couple times. Well, yes, a couple times she does. I think that what's interesting is that
I
watching
mean the one
Esun,
within Castrima,
yeah,
where they're beating
yeah,
up, where that woman is
where
beating
they're
up the
beating
child,
the
the
child
origin
because she
child,
starts.
and starts thinking
Mhm,
of Uche
the J.
and is just completely triggered. And she's
Hmm.
like, not another child, and turns her into stone, which
Yeah.
we first see Nasun accidentally do.
Yep. So amazing. I love watching her Esun's like control and like all the realizations she has about like the things that Alabaster is trying to teach her.
Hmm.
Because I think it's a really nice contrast to the way that Nasun is learning things. But like for
Right.
example, when she comes back, when she first encounters, they go above ground, and then the one of the, what's his name, Turtis,
Mhm.
Turte, I can't remember, the one who gets the boil bugs, the
The
first one to get the
community,
boil bug. Yeah, in the community.
Renanis.
No. Before that, when Alabaster basically shows her how to like make her torus very tiny and
Oh,
precise, and
oh,
starts
oh,
to
the
pop the boil
hunter
bugs
who
off in the
got.
very beginning. The hunter, yeah,
Hey,
just
Elise.
Terte. Hey,
Um,
right. So we learn she's like in that lesson. We learn that Alabaster can't do orogeny anymore because
because it's killing
it
him.
literally turning him into stone. But also that there's just so much more than what she learned, and he keeps trying to break her brain open and say, "Listen, you have to think differently. You
Right.
have to think
And it's
differently."
It's because she's Fulcrum trained, and they train them to stay away from magic. Like, this is what we start to realize, is that they are trained to stay away from magic, and stay away from magic, stay away from the sky, focus on the ground, focus on heat, focus on
Mhm.
basically physics.
Yeah.
And Nasun only had the beginning Fulcrum style training of how to control herself, how to narrow her torus, and all of that. But uh, after she proved herself by getting her hand broken and not icing anything, Esun pretty much left her alone and
Yeah.
didn't teach her more orogeny. She's just a natural at it. Um, we'll go back to Nasun, but so yeah,
Yeah.
she it's so much.
It's so much.
Esun
It's so
needs
much.
to think outside of the way she was trained, and she acknowledges it because, for instance, when she talks about how Yika can
Yeah.
move a boulder but not move a pebble. And then she's like, who the fuck needs to move a pebble anyway? You can learn precision
Mhm.
by just being precise. And and
Exactly.
she's like,
Because like
she
got a mental shard blade.
yeah, yeah. And she's like, wow, I didn't think you could do that. And then she's like, well, yeah, who the rest needs to move a pebble? Like that we were
Mhm.
just taught to do it that way. But Yika just is proficient and is precise because she needs to be, and so she just like put her hands up and focused and just did it,
Yeah.
um and it makes sense. It makes sense that Yuka's self-taught, so of course she's not thinking about moving pebbles.
Mhm.
Why would she be thinking about doing that? She's using her knowledge in a more practical way.
Exactly. Book
And
smart versus
so
street smart with them.
right, and Esun acknowledges, like, she's failing all my tests because I'm giving her the wrong tests.
It's so good. I love this book so much. Yes.
I do too. It makes me so
When you
happy
get
and
it, when you
sad.
get into AK, when you get into uh Stormlight Archive, yeah, she definitely has
Yeah.
a shard blade
She's a
type of
mental shard
ecosystem.
blade.
Hmm.
I feel like we
So
mentioned
dope.
Stormlight Archive on like every single stream. We're gonna have to talk about it at some point.
I cannot wait. I'm
I just
just
don't know. Yeah, we still don't know how
we
to.
don't
It's
know
so
how we're gonna
much.
do
It's
it. It's
huge. It's
just
huge.
yeah,
We'll get there.
yeah.
It's gonna spend like a whole year on it. Um Kastrima. So uh
Yes.
the
Oh,
drunk lady. The drunk lady who
the
makes
drunk
the
lady,
narcotic cigarettes. The drunk lady who makes the PCP.
the connect.
She the connect. She's
Oh,
beating this child, this origin child, and um Yika does not kill Esun for killing her. And this is important because previously, remember, Cutter kills someone by
mhm.
icing
I
him.
guess we should back up a little bit and just say
Yeah.
that the reason all these things are coming to a head is because they discover, like, I thought they thought there was like a band of communists hanging out in the area. Turns out there's an entire, you know, what are they? They're
They're like a
equatorial com.
conquering calm.
The conquering com has come and they've basically taken over the forest, and they have armies. They've found out about Kastrima one way or another because there's a mole. They have a mole, um, and they basically get through Steel, or the Gray One, issue an ultimatum like, listen, y'all can come be part of our con because we're going to take over anyway. We know that we have better chances of survival, but you can't bring any Ragas, so y'all make that decision. And because of that situation, like, suddenly everybody is like, they've been tolerating them, and they're like, oh well, we only need one here to make it work. And so suddenly the Kashima undercom is, you know they're having to grapple with these questions about who's worthy of living and who isn't. And it's a shame because they've been making all this progress
Hmm.
towards living in a blended civilization where everybody can kind of like have a role, get along. Um, but when they come in and throw in that ultimatum, and when you know Esun sees exactly how many of them they are, this is not like a band of 15, 20 people. They have an army. They have an army of people ready
Hundreds.
to take over.
They have hundreds of people who are fighting ready. Kastrima is simply hundreds of people. So who knows how many more they have. Um so the stills start to kind of turn on the ragas a little bit, and we don't know what happens in the baths with Cutter. I mean, yeah, Cutter.
Cutter.
He
Who's so
says that,
interesting?
yeah, so Cutter is the character who has been a Raga this whole time and has kept it a secret, even though everyone kind of figured it out. He never like
Mhm.
outright admitted it to his community now until really the world ended. Um, so he's been like a secret Raga this whole time, and he does not want to change his use cast name to Raga the way Yika wants him to,
Mhm.
amongst other things. Um, in the baths, he ices someone. We don't see it happen. We show up at
Yeah,
the end of it where
all
it's already,
hearsay.
yes. He claims that the person attacked him by trying to hit him in the back of the head, which is how it's rumored that you can kill a Raga by hitting them in their sesapine, which is in the back of their head. And
Hmm.
it's and Esun admits that like that's not gonna
Look,
work.
it's not true. It's like vampires and garlic and
Right,
crucifixes.
right.
Essentially, it's the lore
Um,
behind it.
right. So he claims that that person attacked him. Um, the person's brother and Yika both acknowledge that that person, because I can't remember his name, I'm sorry, that he's
I don't
not the
remember
type
either.
to do that. And
He's not
also
a
that
violent
Cutter
dude.
and also that Cutter has no marks on him.
Hmm.
Cutter and another person who witnesses says that the person moved away from him in the baths. And he's claiming that he moved away from him because he's a Raga. And it's like something about the way he looked at him. The
Hmm.
woman who was there said he was just trying to get closer to the soap. So
So
we
we
are
have
the
to know.
jury. Was this person discriminating against Cutter and possibly plotting to
Someone
hurt him?
who was so averse to violence that they couldn't even kill the chickens that they were, or whatever
Yes,
animal,
it was
right?
chickens.
It was chickens.
Or does Cutter have a chip on his shoulder? Because I was
Hmm.
leaning towards Cutter having a chip on his shoulder. Everyone is on edge.
Hmm.
He's made it this far without being attacked by being attacked for being a Raga. Every time I
I
say
think he's
Raga,
on
I feel
high
like I'm saying
alert.
the N word.
Me too. I
Um,
hate it.
um, you said he was on high alert.
Yeah, he was on high alert because he's going into a bath with somebody where he thinks when they have to decide, draw the line, they have to draw the line in the sand. Do I want to live with these people to continue? And or do I want to save myself and go join at the the cost being that these people are all going to be exterminated, right? So
Right.
he's already thinking that, and especially because he's been so hidden, so guarded about his own orogeny. I think that he was just super sensitive to the
I
situation.
thought so too.
I think he
And
was absolutely in the wrong.
yeah, I thought so too. Especially because Yika acknowledged he didn't have a mark on him.
Yeah, I thought it was super cowardly. Like, knuck if you buck, bro. Like, do it to someone who actually did something to you.
But I mean, I think he believed that that person was trying to do something to him. I
Hmm.
just think that he was wrong.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
Yika shows a type of erogyny that Esun hasn't seen in some time. The way
Hmm.
that Inan got exploded by that guardian. Yika basically does this, but just to Cutter's heart. She puts her hand on his chest, and Yika can assess the erogyny that she's doing. And she says it's
Hmm.
like what was done to Inan, but
Yeah.
not as messy. So whatever she did it. She managed to do it where it was only internal, which isn't
Hmm.
something that Esun has ever seen before. So again, it's
Yeah.
like Yika
So
is
much
very
for
powerful
control,
in her
right?
own way. Yeah,
Oh,
Yika's powerful in her own way.
oh.
Um,
I was trying to think of like what this was reminding me of, and I was like scrolling through my fandoms. It's the way that people can take away bending in Avatar: Last Airbender.
oh.
When people have the power to like remove bending. I was like, oh yeah, okay.
um.
Oh.
So anyway, so Yiga kills Cutter, and that ends things. It shows that she's not just gonna side with Origins just because they're the same. Um, and also, it's like, okay, well, justice is done. There's nothing left to fight about.
Hmm.
So when
Until.
when Esun now kills the winemaker while she's beating the child, she needs a reason to say um why she didn't kill Esun. Because first of all, Essun's not gonna let that happen. Essa will take
Hmm.
down that whole place before Yika gets a chance to kill her. So they say that, killed she would have killed that child if Essun hadn't stopped her. And that's how
Hmm.
they settle it. Um, but we all know that Essun is too terrifying and she will murder this whole calm without a care.
Yeah.
She'll feel bad about it later. She's not a total
Later, but
monster, but
she's had
self-preservation
enough.
is kind of key for her right now. And she's had enough. She
Yeah,
doesn't want to see
she's
another
had enough. She's
child
seen enough.
killed.
There's no way. Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Oh
that
man.
scene was really intense. And, uh poor Alabaster had to stop her Taurus. He's so powerful still because she connected to the obelisk and turned that woman to stone and was and started just killing. And
Hmm.
it took Alabaster shutting down her Taurus suddenly, but in turn that kills him. She
Yeah.
turns Alabaster fully to stone. Um, and Antimony takes him away, we presume, to eat. But then she sees a stone eater that's all white with black eyes that looks at her
Hmm.
with a little bit of recognition, but not quite.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
she
love
thinks to
that part.
herself, I've never seen a stone eater made of alabaster before.
Hmm. Loved it. I like
And
Micah's comment.
let me highlight it. Oops. Esun is probably the highest ranked traumatized protagonist in the genre, although Rand from Wheel of Time is getting closer by the book. I haven't finished all the Wheel of Time, but yeah, she's definitely like, I don't know. I think if I had to compare the trauma they've both been through, I want to say Esun has it worse.
I would throw
Only
Daenerys up there too if I
mm,
had to rank traumatized protagonists.
because she's had to kill her own child, then her other child was murdered by her husband, and now the world
Hmm.
has literally been ended. And I
Yep.
think
While
that
her other
it's
child is missing.
yeah, yeah. Um yeah, she's and that's just like that's just scratching the surface. She's been through so
Yeah.
much.
So much.
Um
Whew.
so even when she does
And
bad things, it's like you get it, you understand, and you feel for
she's
her.
like she's been create I mean, she's a tool for destruction and preservation, and it's just like you're getting to learn just exactly how powerful she is. For example, we haven't talked about the control room in Tonki at all
I
yet,
know.
right? And Tonki's like war plan to defeat the what are they called again? The com that's
Renanis.
Renanis. Like there's this army at their doorstep, and Tonki's like, well, if we can get a powerful origin to like
Send the
link it
boil
all
bugs
together
in.
and send the boil bugs
Wait,
in,
let's go.
then we're
Wait,
oh, whew.
let's go back about Tonki in the control room because
Yo, this bitch.
we learn now that the idea of evil Earth is not it's not just words.
It's not
Father
metaphorical.
Earth is real. Father Earth is real and truly does hate them. And
Yep.
she finds that little piece of iron, which we know now is what's inside the Guardians. And she
Hmm.
grabs it and it goes into her bloodstream and tries to crawl up. And it was essentially going to turn her into a Guardian, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And Esun uses orogeny to take off her arm. But she didn't mean to take off her arm.
She didn't mean to take it off, but she was
She
just
was
trying to
just
stop
trying
the
to
piece.
stop the yeah. And instead slices her arm off cleanly.
And how
And the
about when
little
it talks to her?
and yes, that's what I was just about to say. It calls her little enemy.
Ooh,
So evil Earth isn't just a term. Like this is
yeah,
real. Father Earth is
yeah.
real and he hates them. And it's like all these things that are not written on these tablets. Because remember,
Uh-huh.
Alabaster talked about the missing tablets.
Hmm.
Oh my god, I can't wait to get into Stone Sky.
There's just so much, like, and even the little, like the preludes, like, or the little. I don't know, vignettes that you get at the
Interludes.
beginning of the chapter, where they're
Yeah.
talking, like where they're reading from stone lore and talking about
Yeah.
things. There's, oh, second, when you find the origin, and at the center of the circle, and then like find it in its crib, and then it's like erased what you're supposed to do with it. So everybody assumes you're supposed to like probably kill them, but it could have been, this is the person that you need to help save your community. You have no idea because it was
Right.
destroyed. So much propaganda, and just politics running on behind the scenes here.
I'm going to highlight this
Whew.
comment from Micah. The slow
Mhm.
reveal for Evil Earth is so well done. It first sounds like a mythology, but it's so real and terrifying. Um, no, we can't talk about Stone
We
Sky
can't
yet,
talk
but we
about
will.
that. I know exactly what you're talking about, and that scene is scary. But I think that we can even hint at it, because there's a part where Alabaster is talking about when he's being dragged through the earth by antimony, and they get to a part, and he just she's Esu says that his pause was so long that it gave her chills, and
Mhm.
he wouldn't talk about it. And she said, and later said, she's like, I've been there. I know why he couldn't say anything, and that's like, that's that scene you're
We'll
referring
get there.
to.
We'll get there. We'll get there in May.
It's so good. It's so good.
This is all just like so well written. Finding out that evil earth is a real thing, it makes you think of a lot of like turns of phrase that we have, and like when you stop and think
Mhm.
about where they come from, and they've spent all this time using evil earth as a curse and talking about Father Earth and the abstract, and to find out that this is like a real thing, or the earth is alive. The
It's
earth is
alive.
alive, it's evil, and it hates you, is like some terrifying shit. We always
Yeah.
think, because even the very beginning of the series, they mention that the world isn't ended. The world
Yeah.
is going to recover just fine in 1,000 years or 10,000 years or 100,000
Mhm.
years. The world is going to be here. Like humanity is ended.
Yeah.
And now we talk
Oh.
about this ancient war. It's the Stone Eaters. Some
Mhm.
want to bring back the moon, some do not. We have the Guardians, who are following the instructions of the evil earth from that little piece of it
Mhm.
that's embedded in the back of their skull.
And we learn just like what contamination means, because I think, like, well, which we're going to talk about Nasun's story now, but in a couple minutes. But it's just like, well, you're trying to figure out like exactly what side they're on. Is a contaminated guardian a good thing or a bad thing? Like,
Right.
what does that mean? Because I feel like even in this book we're still a little bit uncertain. Like,
Yeah.
well,
Because
okay, yeah.
Shafa is refusing to kill Nasun,
Hmm.
but Umber, wait, was it Umber? Or did I make that up? Because that's Umber is the Game of
No,
Thrones
no.
family.
Umber is also the magicians.
Umber is a
He's one of the
popular name.
gods. I can't
Um,
remember. There's Umber, and then I think it's Umber, and then it's
Nita.
Nita. Nita. I have a
They would,
highlight for her.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's talk about Found Moon. They find this, they find this place. Jija thinks it's a place where Nasun is going to be cured of orogeny. Shafa tells Nasun, well, technically, if you get good enough, you could, but we still don't really learn how. But she's learning
Mhm.
so much on her own about how to use
Mhm.
magic, because she can see it very clearly in Shafa, and
Yeah,
she's the one who can see that the thing embedded in his head is what's
it's
causing him pain.
painful.
Now we know why Guardians smile so much.
Yeah, we learn that they smile because it releases endorphins, and that's just one of the things they do. So they're constantly smiling, being creepy, but it's to alleviate the pain. That, and then when they touch the back of the Sesapine of origin, it also soothes them. It's
But
just,
not if they touch the Sesapine,
whew,
still, it kills them. Which
yeah.
he, as he's coming into himself, when he washes up on the shore after Alia.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I guess we should start there.
after he nearly drowns in Alia, he says that he
Mayoff.
has to make, and I mean, I'm sorry, in Mayav, um, he is about to die by drowning. His bones are broken, and he's about to inhale
Hmm.
a shit ton of water. And he makes a trade, but we don't know with who.
Hmm.
Um, the trade is essentially that he gets strength again, his body knits itself back together, but he's going to lose some of himself. He's going to lose
Yeah,
his memories. Um, and it's really unexpected because,
because we hate Shafa at this point. We're like, we see
yeah,
him and we know that, like, I mean, there's that line. Oh wait, no, it's in this book where he talks about where he meets Corundon, and he was like, "Oh, I would have laid
I
him
would
in
have laid him in the wire so
the chair,
gently.
so gently." And you're just like, "Oh, I fucking hate you."
And he goes to that
Oh,
he meets that family, the boy Eats,
mm-hmm.
who we meet him later in Falmoon as he's older, but
It's
you know,
AIDS, yeah,
he kills his family by accident because he doesn't realize right away that you can't pull whatever he's pulling from the cespine, he can't pull it from stills. But then he just
yeah,
kind of figures, well, they kind of had to die anyway. They were gonna come kill him.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
and then he's like, I didn't kill the whole family. I'm not a monster. But it's like
yeah.
all
He
these
left the
people are gonna
kids
wait.
alive.
Yeah,
They're
and
gonna
like
wake up
some
to a
like aunts and
massacre.
uncles.
I
Right.
think
And
that,
one
and
kid
that Ace,
missing.
yeah, and Ace is like, he smells faintly of blood, but like
Hmm.
whatever, he's found somebody who like who understands who what he is and isn't threatened by it and is willing to take him because he's so afraid of his grandfather finding out.
Right. And that's one of the things with Nasun as well is she loves Shafa with her whole heart and wants to do anything for Shafa because she feels like Shafa is accepting of her in a way that her father is not and is warm to her in a way that her mother is not. And it makes my
Hmm.
heart ache for Esun
Oh,
because she
for
feels like
Essen,
she's done all these things to protect Nasun and all
yeah.
they did was make Nasun hate her. And she even thinks
Hmm.
when Nasun is older, I'll be able to explain why I had to do these things, but now she doesn't even have that chance.
Nope,
And Nasun's a
nope.
little kid, so she doesn't understand, you know? She thinks about her mother breaking her hand and is like, "You don't do that to someone you love." But then when she finds
Hmm.
out that Shafa has done that and that all the guardians
And
do
that's the
it,
thing they all have in car that everyone at a fulcrum has in common, you
she's like,
know.
"Oh, so the fulcrum made my mother this way." But she still doesn't forgive her and
Yeah,
see that, like,
yeah.
she was doing what she was doing to
To
protect her.
protect her, yeah, to protect her and
Even
just
acknowledging that her father that, she was forcing her to hide what she was so that her father wouldn't kill her, and it's like her father did kill her brother and attempted to kill her as well, and she still doesn't acknowledge, but then you have to remember she's a 10-year-old,
yeah.
and
She's
now
looking
she
for
has,
love
like,
all
this
her life.
fucked up notion of what love is.
And I think that the first time that you really see what's happening between her and her mother is where Gija's like, listen, get your shit, we're gonna go. She's like, is mommy coming? He was like, no. And she was like, ah, okay,
Because
good. And
mommy's
she
the
goes to
mean
pass.
one. Right.
Yeah.
Mommy's the mean one, and it's like you just saw that he beat your brother to death, you just walked in on his dead body, but you still think mommy's the mean one. And
Oh
even
yeah.
that is heartbreaking too, because
That,
everything Esun is doing, Esun is alive for Nasun.
yeah. She's everything that she's done has been to protect her. And like, like the you can't help but thinking about throughout this whole book, like, oh my God, what would she do? She knew she was like running around with Shafla. Like it's like her would be her worst nightmare for them
Absolute
to
worst nightmare.
meet. Like, get out of here. Oh my God. And Nasun is just it's like you have the rationale of a 10-year-old who knows that she needs to be protected, but also recognizes very quickly that she's in control in the situation and she has to play a certain role in order to ensure her continued survival because she can't survive on her own as a 10-year-old on the road. But like with Jija, even if he like remembers what she is every once in a while and hits her, it's better
She
than
quickly
traveling
learns how to
alone.
manipulate him though,
Yeah. Yeah, like how they say that she learns how to manipulate, but she doesn't know the word for it yet.
because she's a baby. She's only 10. I
Mm.
feel for her because she doesn't want to be bad. She doesn't want to be a monster, but she has to
Mhm.
survive. And
It's like
in order to
in Who Fears Death, right? It's like you go your whole life being this labeled as this thing, and everybody hates you because you are this thing, and it was absolutely beyond your control. And
right.
trying to find a place within the world for
And
yourself.
then you have to become that thing that everyone hates in order to continue to protect yourself.
Yeah,
You're driven to make their I don't know,
they're all there.
prejudices real.
Hmm. In order to protect them,
In order to, yeah.
like right, like oh man, it's
Like one of the things she does,
crazy.
she starts learning how to fix animals.
Hmm.
She fixes a snake's broken back with magic.
Yeah,
She tries to fix the ants that have some type of like fungus or whatever, and she can't fix the fungus, but she's able to fix what it is in their brains that makes them spread it so that it no longer
yeah,
spreads. And all of this is because she wants to fix Shafa. She wants to help him
yeah.
because she feels like Shafa loves her. And yes, he used to be evil. Yes, he broke her mother's hand and he's broken so many other hands. And but he's
But
he's
now,
hers. He
yeah,
loves her.
and she can see that he's fighting whatever the evil is.
And but she's also
Like,
willing to die for him
yeah,
if it's for a good cause, which is just so sad. She's, this poor little 10-year-old child is like she's been on the run for
Attack on Titan.
like she disappeared when she was like 8 and she's just now
Hmm.
turned 10. She was about to turn 9, right? And now she's turned
Yeah,
10. And this whole time it's like maneuvering her feelings about Uche, which she acknowledges she's never been able to openly grieve her little brother. Of course she
yeah.
misses her little brother.
Of course she does.
She hasn't been able to grieve her mother because as much as she feels like she hates her, she also misses her mother. Um, she's grieving the loss of her father. She doesn't call him daddy anymore. In her mind, he's Jija,
Hmm.
not daddy, because she's had to stop thinking of him as her father
Like
because he's not
every
her father anymore.
Yeah. It's a series of like I feel like in the same like she's experiencing 10 years of grief in the time it takes for them to get to Found Moon, right? So she's like
Right.
also experiencing the catalyst that Nasu that Esun has had over like the last 10 years plus in her whole lifetime, and she's experiencing it all much more quickly. She lost her dad, she lost her brother, she lost her dad who like loved her for what she was before, he figured out she was a monster, lost her community. The world's going to end. She knows it because she can sense like what's happening. She knows something really big is going on. And then she's being forced to travel with this person who hates her and like get to this community. And then she's experiencing all these things again where she's learning that, oh, the identity that I held on for my mom is not right. So it's just like there's like multiple layers of grief that she's experiencing constantly. Like it's never like, oh, okay, I'm better now. She's like does this, and she realizes that she's more powerful than everybody else at Found Moon, at
Hmm.
their fulcrum. They can't do the things that she does. They can't even like relate to it. And I think Shafa makes a good point. He tells us like, well, just because they can do erogenate doesn't mean like there's a lot of it is like natural talent.
Yeah.
And you are really strong.
I mean, she would have been put in a node station
Oh
because
yeah,
she's too powerful.
yeah. Her and
You
Uche
know,
both.
yeah, we learn really quickly that the people who are putting node stations, like for Esun, she
Yeah.
believes it's people that are never, who aren't able to really gain control and, all that. But no, it's the people who know too much. It's the
The
people who
people
are
who can
too
access the
powerful,
magic.
which would
Yeah.
explain why Alabaster's children are in node stations. Because obviously he's
Hmm.
producing powerful children that would have been able to access the obelisk, that would have been able to access magic. And they don't want
Hmm.
that because apparently that's what broke the world.
Yeah. And when you meet Shafa and he's talking to Nasu, and he tells her off right away, he's like, "Oh, well, you would probably have 4 rings if we were at the fulcrum. Like, and
Yeah.
she's only
But
10.
I don't think she'd be past 10.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Like the way the easy
Her use
access.
of the obelisk, the way she's able to access magic, she's past what the fulcrum can measure, and she's
Hmm.
only 10 years old.
Yeah.
Um Jija, we learn, knew an origin when he was a kid who accidentally iced someone, Makemba's
Yeah.
nephew.
Yeah.
So
He's got
that's
PTSD.
which means so that means that Lerna, the doctor, had an origin cousin. We don't know if he
Hmm.
knows that, but because he's
Yeah.
Makemba's boy. I remember Esun, she says refers to him as Makemba's boy so many times.
Hmm.
Um, but this is probably before Lerna was born. Um, Interesting that Makemba and the rest of her family are able to stay in Torimo because you would think the whole family would get run out.
Yeah.
But he loses this kid loses control and I accidentally ices another kid, and Jija witnesses it, and so he's afraid of Origins. But
Hmm.
by the same token, he tries not to think of Nasun as an Origin. Like he feels like, no,
Hmm.
you're not one of them. You're
Yeah.
my little girl, and it's like, no, that just means that Origins are people, and you can't judge them all by
Exactly.
one person losing control back when you were a kid.
Exactly. And he's mad at her. He gets angry at her because he's like, "What? You've been there. Like, can you really cure yourself? Like, is there really a cure? Like, all these kids
Right.
have been in there for all these years and none of them have cured." And she's like, "Well, I could if I get good enough, so I have to practice and I have to study." And he's just like, "No, no, 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 no,
Right.
no,
And
no,
he
no."
asked her if she wants to get better, and she's like, yeah, I want to get better at orogeny.
Hmm. And he
Um,
loses his shit.
and let's not forget how Shafa embarrasses him.
Oh yes, Chopper put him in his place.
he knocked him down and had him squealing, and so he's been humiliated, and I imagine for him that was like a big attack on his manhood to have this other man basically take his daughter from him, knock him down, and make him squeal like that, and send him
Yeah.
home to go pack her things.
I
It's
love the description of that. It's like the sound in the back of the throat when you know your
yeah,
life is on the
it made
line.
me think of Joffrey dying from the strangler.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
so Gija, on top of being upset about,
Mom, I'm afraid. I've always been afraid.
yeah, yeah, but I don't know. I always feel bad for everybody. I felt bad for Gija still because he's so misguided. He's not just evil.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's part of it is his conditioning. I mean, it's hundreds of
Hmm.
years of conditioning, generation after generation.
Yeah.
Um, when she mentions him being sad about Uche being dead and their mother possibly being dead, uh, he tries to deny it, and he's like, "You called me a raga lover," and
Yeah.
she's just like, "What are you talking about?" And then she
Yeah.
realizes, oh, so he can't even acknowledge the grief of his son and wife,
No,
which
because for
he
in his mind,
caused.
he's yeah.
And I
Because
think
for him,
he's
it's a
having,
huge deception. Like
yeah, but
Esun
I think he's
deceived him. She
having,
came in knowing who she was and like was
right. And I think
not
he's having
forthcoming.
conflicting feelings because he does miss his wife. He does
Hmm.
feel awful about killing his kid. And so he's just trying not to think about it. To him, it didn't happen. Like
Yeah, and
he's trying
oh
to
yeah,
rewrite it in his mind.
yeah. I love when Nasun picks up on that. She's like, "Wait a second, we're not living in the same reality. Like
Yeah.
you're living in a place where they're just gone,
And
not
that's why I
that
say
they
he's
killed."
he's
Oh,
not just he's not just evil. He's misguided from all
hmm,
this conditioning he's had. And so he has these conflicting feelings because of course he's mourning his wife and his child, and then having to acknowledge that he killed
his
his
wife.
child, and you know but then also trying to say, well, no, but like, but he did love them, before he
Hmm.
found out. And it's just like all these things
I
conflicting
mean,
inside him and
yeah.
making
I
him a
mean, I
little
feel
bit
like it does a
crazy.
it does. I think that it does a really good job of just like, you know, just being like, oh, this is a not to society, and how can you be racist or sexist or whatever when you have one of these things, and he's dealing with someone who is like not dealing with any of those things, and you want to like, I want to give him a pass because I'm like, yeah, yeah, I get it, but on the other hand, you killed your kid,
No, I don't want to. I'm not
bro,
saying I want to give him
you
a
murdered a
pass.
3 year old.
No, I'm not saying I want to give him a pass. I'm saying that he. It's like when we talk about Damaya's mother. She leaves
Hmm.
her in this barn,
Yeah,
leaves her in her own filth, doesn't even give her a bucket to pee in and or a blanket. But it's because she thinks origins don't
that
feel
they
cold.
don't get, they
She
don't feel,
thinks that,
yeah,
she's dangerous and needs to be locked in the barn. And then when it's time for her to leave, what does she give her? The blanket her grandma made.
yeah,
Of all the things she could have given her to keep warm, not like some blanket that you throw over a horse, but like the blanket from her
yeah,
bed that her
yeah.
grandmother made her, because up until this point, it was her daughter that she loved. And it shows you
Hmm.
how these people are so conditioned to believe these things about origins,
Intergenerational trauma.
right, to the point of violence against
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Um, so, I still think that Damaya's mother was fucked up. I still think that Gija's fucked up, but you see how it happens.
Hmm. How do you feel about Nasun being the one to end Jija?
I think it was fitting. I feel bad that Esun didn't get to do it.
Hmm.
Um, I think that would have felt great for her to be able to kill Jija herself and to confront him,
Hmm.
to miss the opportunity. But Nasun really tried. She really, really
Yeah,
tried. And at the end, Jija tried to stab her to death. He learned nothing.
I enjoy the poetic justice of him being turned into stone when he's a stone napper and trying to like create something out of something else and like refine it and make these tools when it's just like
Hmm.
his heart was hardened from the very beginning, so he became what he was. And
Mm,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And then he shatters.
and then he shatters, which is all really creepy. Where she's like, I can see his eyes still looking at me. Oh man.
when she went back to the house and iced it, except for around the two of them, which means she
Mm-hmm.
can also throw a Taurus, which is again, she's
Mm-hmm.
incredibly powerful.
Incredibly powerful.
Um, she showed us that she's she really didn't want to have to kill him, but she
And
knew
she
she was
told
going
him,
to.
she
Yeah.
was like, listen, this is what
And
I can
Shafa
do.
was ready to just do it. He's like, just say the
Yeah.
word. I will go kill him. I have no problem with this.
Yeah. No, I'm glad Shafa didn't do it. I like Shafa threatening him. But I wanted it to, I mean, I obviously wanted Essen to be the one, but I do like that it was Nassen who ended it. Because now she's like, well, it's like, because now she can travel with Shafa and do the things. Um, she's aware, we know that she can control Obelisk. We know that now Esun knows that she's alive because when Esun
When she
like
was
made,
inside the
did the
obelisk.
network, when she was
Okay, so
inside
yeah,
of
let's
it,
talk about the network.
whew,
Gosh,
yes,
it's like
the
like
mesh.
5 more minutes. Okay. um Yika knows how to connect to other origins the way Alabaster did. So once again, Esun is wrong about how much control Yika has and what Yika knows how to do.
Hmm.
She's connected to other origins before in order to accomplish tasks, and never on this scale. Um, so when they connect as a network, so that Esun can, one, learn how to do it, which she learns immediately once it's done. She
Hmm.
realizes how, and then she connects to the obelisks. I always say that weird. She connects to the obelisks and then connects all of those, and that is when they do their attack on Renanis, right?
Hmm.
She creates
Ooh.
cold. She creates cold that causes the boil bugs to move inward looking for heat. And what's there? All the bodies of the people of Renanis who are above Castrima, including a few Castrimans who were unfortunately
Yeah,
out there fighting. And
collateral damage.
unlike with the hunter who had like just a couple on his leg, which did incredible damage, they these boil bugs are in the millions. She didn't
Yeah,
even realize there were that many, and
yeah.
they cover people, completely cover them, including the guardian that they had, the topless guardian. So that guardian was coming to explode her
Hmm. Hmm.
until Hoa pulls her back through the ground. This is when she went to do her parlay with them, and they
Yeah,
realized like, okay, no, you just intend on killing us. Okay, cool, cool.
yeah. And then that's the thing is like she goes up there thinking that like they send her because she's the strongest person, but they had no idea that there was a guardian around because then
Right,
they would have sent somebody else. They're like,
right.
oh wait, that's your trump card. Actually, hold my beer.
Right. And she also learns what that knife feels like, the throwing knife that stops the orogeny.
Hmm.
She said it feels like your nerves are on fire. Thank God for
Yeah,
Hoa, who was there to pull her through before the guardian could get to her. When Hoa
yeah,
feels so bad because he didn't want her to be hurt at all. But it's like, Hoa, you're not God. Like, it's
yeah.
okay, kid, relax. Well, kid, he's tens of thousands of years old. We have to stop thinking of him as a kid, right? Um, when she kills Renanis, she doesn't just kill the army, she kills the entire calm,
Hmm.
every single person. Um, which Lerna realizes, oh, well, now we can move there.
He's like,
Because
oh
first,
wait, you got you.
first they're
Hmm.
thinking of bringing supplies from there back and how long that's going to
Yeah.
take. And also the damage to Castrima, because Castrima
Hmm.
suffered a lot
Because
of damage during
yeah,
this.
they found a vent. They were
Hmm.
burrowing,
Right.
and
Some
Essen
of the
was like
geodes are broken. Yeah,
freezing
she was
stone
freezing
eaters, and the
stone eaters. Oh
crystals.
my god.
Oh, such a fun visual.
There's just so much happens in such a short period of time. Um, while she's
Slander
inside the
lunch.
onyx, the onyx she says is the key. So the
Hmm.
boil bugs, she kills Renanis completely. She traps stone eaters inside parts of the geode, so almost like their own little obelisks. She finds Nasun. Um, but all of this power, when she's done, she realizes she's off balance. Her arm is turned to
Hmm.
stone.
Yep. That's the exchange. And she also realized that while she's in the power, that she has to like have a focus and a direction or else it will take over her. Right? Like
Yes,
if she
it'll
doesn't have a
consume
goal,
her.
she doesn't have a focus, like then it'll she would have died immediately. But she knew that, oh, I need to do this. I'm using this power for that. and then she was able to channel it. Because remember, Antimony was like, oh wait, when she asked Antimony, when Alabaster had finally fallen asleep after their really long talk, she's like, oh, am I just supposed to harness the power of the rift through the obelisk? And she's like, no, that'll kill you. That'll just kill you. That's
Yeah.
not going to do anything. Oh, I want to mention
What's
something real quick that's unrelated, but about Evil Earth and Nita the Guardian. Um, like as I highlighted something that Nasun was talking about. She's the one who sometimes gets loose lips. She's the one that kind of talks a lot. And there's a
yeah.
part where she stutters and says something a couple times. And like, oh, she's about to be broken. And this is what you see that's really similar to the guardian they meet in the socket with, you know,
With
being off.
being off. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so scary.
And when they went to the Antarctic fulcrum, the Origins there realized quickly that they were contaminated.
Yeah,
And we as readers don't fully know what that means, but they know. And so they
yeah,
had to kill them really quickly. The Guardians had to kill those Origins really quickly. And Nasun helps them. She helps the
yeah.
Guardians and she turns everyone there into stone.
Hmm.
And
That's
when she
crazy. And
when
that
she
and all that
first tries
happens so
to
quickly too that you don't even realize like what's going on. You're like, oh, there's other guardians. There's a whole other fulcrum. Let's go there. We're gonna be able to get help. Blah blah. And
Mhm.
they're like, no, 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 no,
And
no, no.
also when Nasun first tries to use Arajani in the office, the what are they called?
The black
The
jackets.
Yeah, the higher up that they were talking
Oh,
to,
the seniors.
the seniors, she like
Yeah.
slaps her Taurus away, like, stop that shit. And she recognizes
Hmm.
that as something her mother used to do from across town if necessary. Which, when you
Hmm.
think about that, how exhausted must Esun have been to have to be constantly aware like
Hmm.
that. Um, God, that must be so exhausting. But of course,
Yeah.
Nasun is a kid. She doesn't see it that way. Again,
Yeah. And you think that she'd get
Esun
more
works so
understanding. Yeah.
she's
Like you
10.
want her to have more understanding, right? Because you're like, oh,
Right.
you're at this place, you understand what's going on, you see with the training here, you recognize the imprint of like, it's imprint on your mother, but you still, you
Right.
know, you
And the
still
fact
have
that your
understanding
mother
for
was
her.
was slapping your Taurus down from across town to keep you from accidentally revealing yourself, and knowing that what the result would be by seeing what your own father did to your toddler brother,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still, doesn't click for her, and it's unfortunate. Also, it was
Whew.
interesting how disgusted Steele was by Essun's use of the obelisk gate. And he's like using it just to settle your own personal score. Like, that's stupid and
Mm-hmm.
childish, He
I
thought that
thought
was
it was so
ridiculous.
super manipulative.
And he's like, we need to bring the moon back. And it's so
Yeah.
funny that, like, Essun's reaction to being told she needs to bring the moon back, she's like, "You want me to catch the fucking moon?" Whereas Nasun's responses is just, "Tell me how to bring the moon home."
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
To be 10 years old where anything is possible.
Yeah.
She doesn't have all this shit to unlearn.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is
Mm-hmm. She
everything is
sees the
possible.
silver everywhere. She sees it
Yeah.
everywhere. She understands it. And
Mhm.
she's been experimenting because she's like, she keeps talking about how she's not like she's sussing things, but she's sussing them differently. She's not like sending her awareness. She's just like opening up her mind. And she's like, oh,
And
huh,
and
that's what that is.
she can access magic with her Erogeny shut off.
Hmm.
She doesn't need the
Yeah,
Erogeny. Because magic is
so
different,
crazy.
and that's one of the things that the Guardians are trying to keep Origins from finding out, which is why when they reach a certain level, and now we know why you don't see many 10 ringers.
Right.
They didn't know Alabaster knew as much as he did. If they had, they would have killed him.
Yeah, 100%.
um Gosh,
It's so good. I love this book.
I do too.
I just like, do I love it more than the fifth season? I kind of might.
I do,
I just, oh, it's
because
so good.
I feel like the fifth season is the building block. We learn who people are, we learn what this world is,
Hmm.
and we learn that everything we learned has just been undone.
Yeah, none of it
And
matters.
I feel
None of it
like
matters anymore.
none of it matters. I feel like the Obelisk Gate is the true beginning of the story. The world has
Hmm.
ended, so now what?
Yeah.
And I feel like fifth season is all of the world building we needed to understand the Obelisk
Yeah.
Gate.
Oh, it's so good. I love it.
It's so good.
Love,
It
love,
is
love it.
excellent. Gosh, it's been an hour already. There's still
Fuck. There's so
I
much.
know.
Hold on, let me
Ooh.
looking at my notes to see if there's anything that we haven't touched on.
Okay.
Um, no. I mean, I just look at the imperfection and limitations of fulcrum training, which we talked
I'm
about. I have
I'm gonna
Shaka's deal
highlight
with the devil.
this comment from Micah.
Yeah.
The fifth season is a masterpiece of world build. Obelisk Gate is a masterpiece of character continuation. I absolutely agree.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we, like I said, I went into the fifth season thinking this is a story about like just this woman getting revenge for her killed children.
Yeah.
Because we start off finding out her kids are dead. And like that's
Yeah.
not even the biggest part of the story. And then finding out these three people are all the same person and that we're finding out
Oh yeah.
all of her background information. But again, this is just information because the point is the world has just been ended, which is what happens in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And so it really is just like all world building without you even realizing it. I feel like um sometimes in stories the world building can get a little bit too explainy, you
Oh
know?
yeah, totally. Very tedious and very obvious that that's what they're doing. But
Right.
you're kind of fooled into learning all this stuff about the world without realizing that that's what she's doing.
Right, right. And you think it's one story, but it's a completely different story. And now that we've reached the Obelisk Gate, now we know what this story is really about. And we've barely gotten into it because there is still so much that needs to
There's
happen
so
in the Stone
much.
Sky. We've
And
barely
it's
taken a step forward.
yeah, and this is
Castrima
why
is
the
now
worlds keep bleeding
destroyed.
together. Because
Yeah, because
when we were reading fifth season, I was like, wait, where's the part where they're like making that journey? And I'm like, oh wait, no, that's not. Oh wait, that's the night. That's
yeah,
Stone Sky.
that's why I didn't read ahead. I had to just
Mhm.
wait, and I read it literally this week, reread it this week to make sure I knew when to stop.
Yeah, and it's like I read it, and then I also listened to it, and I was re-listening to it, and it's so just. Ugh. Is it Robin Miles, the woman who
I think
narrates the
so.
audiobook?
I think so.
Ah, just fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Um
I was gonna mention that like we don't really talk about it, and like they say that Nasun will never know that the fact that she paid the lorist in the very beginning is like
yeah, is what
was why it was
what
killed
tipped everything
Uche.
off. Yes, because
Yeah.
he has or his
Origin.
powers, can't say it, were so strong that he sensed the diamond in his father's pocket, and that's what gave him away. And
Mhm.
her powers, Nasun's powers, were so strong that she was able to find diamonds in a mine that nobody even knew was there.
Yeah.
And then again, it's like, don't you guys see how much better your lives would be if you just let Origins get trained and just use them? You would have a
Hmm.
diamond mine behind your house.
Yeah.
Tarimo
And
could
like
have
in
been rich.
and Essen thinks about this from time to time, or just time to time, and just like her talking about, oh man, I wish I had brought Nasun and Uche here to
Yeah.
Kostreva,
If
because
only
then
she
they would
had
have been
known about
able,
it.
yeah, they would
Yeah.
have been able to live their lives.
Hmm.
Um, whew.
But her and Alabaster, Esun and Alabaster acknowledged that the stills turn on you eventually, and it probably would have even happened at Mayoff.
Yeah.
That eventually they would have turned against them if they stayed long enough
Mhm.
for one reason or another. What do you think became of Mayav? Because the Guardians came there just for the origins, and there were only two.
Hmm. I think that they had, with the destruction that was happening in the island and the fact that Alia was smoking not that far away, they probably had to leave and find another island, or they probably had to go and find like a mainland because now they have no orogenic protection from
Right.
like tidal waves and all of this stuff,
Unless
like all
they
the
unless
risks
they
that.
managed to go kidnap another origin child before a tidal wave comes for them.
Yeah. Oh, just so crazy. And then learning that Alabaster used, the power of the obelisk, but also several dozen node maintainers to like cause rifting in the first place. Like,
Yes.
whoa. Just
That was
talking
that
about
was
how
a
we can
that was
suss
somewhat
things.
that was kind of justice in a way too,
Yeah,
because
yeah, I think so
these
too.
these node maintainers, they were abused and I mean,
Hmm.
abused isn't even like a harsh enough word for what happens to them.
Yeah. So
Um,
cruel.
yeah, what's done to them is so cruel. And now these same node maintainers that are there to just like unconsciously keep the world from breaking are used to break the world. I thought that was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And now they're free.
There's mercy killing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew.
Oh, Micah is so hopeful. He says, the residents of Mia have sailed away and found Core Point and live happily ever after. We could wish. We could wish.
Oh, Core Point. I can't wait to spend time there.
Uh, so
Ugh.
that's interesting. So Core Point is the name of the home of these stone eaters that are
Mhm.
alive and we don't know anything about. And the stone that is in the back of the head of it's not really a stone and it's also not really a
A
metal.
little
We don't
piece of
know,
metal. Yeah, a little
but
piece of magic.
it's called a core stone. So there's probably a connection there, right? I'm really excited about Stone Sky. I think we should probably wrap up. Um,
Mhm.
all I can
What do
say
you?
is go read this. Please, if you haven't read it, go read it. There's still time. May 15th, we'll be back here at 3 p.m. Eastern talking about the Stone Sky and wrapping this wonderful trilogy up. And then we'll have to move on to another one.
The gilded ones.
The Gilded Ones will be next. That would be in July.
Hmm.
Um,
Can't wait for that.
Follow us on
I'm so
Twitter,
jealous.
Thousand Eyes One. I know that's a really good read too. Facebook and Instagram, A Thousand Eyes and One, ONE. And for all book club material on Instagram, you can find Wine on an Empty Stomach. Um, so yeah, May 15th, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Ooh, we have an announcement.
What's the announcement?
Um, A Thousand Eyes in One. We're going to be doing reads of Fire and Blood ahead of House of the Dragon.
Yes. Yes, we're going to read a portion of Fire and Blood because House of the Dragon is coming. So we're going to talk about the
Mhm.
Dance of the Dragons. We're not going to do the entire Fire and Blood, just that portion. So if you have the
Yep.
short stories, The Princess and the Queen,
Yep.
um, that
It's a
part. So
primer. A
yeah,
primer.
kind of a primer. Because obviously we don't know what's going to happen in the show. So that's going to be filled with spoilers. So be spoiler ready that if you have not read Fire and Blood or The Princess and the Queen, um, just know that it's going to be filled with spoilers because we're just going to speculate about, you know,
Yeah.
House of the Dragon and
Can't
just
wait.
talk about what side we're on
Mm.
in this Targaryen civil war.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, thanks guys for coming to check us out, and we will see you in May. Bye.
Bye.